My parents chose my twin sister's graduation over my life surgery, then got exposed to 30 years of hidden when my uncle left me everything and they received nothing. I'm a 30-year-old software developer who's spent his entire life living in the shadow of my twin sister Margie. While many might dismiss this as typical sibling rivalry, the reality of my situation runs much deeper and darker than that. From our earliest memories, our parents made it painfully clear who their favorite child was. Even in preschool, they'd praise Margie for her finger paintings while ignoring my building block structures. Our teachers recommended putting us in separate classes because they noticed how our parents' behavior was affecting us. But Mom and Dad refused, saying Margie would be upset without her brother supporting her. The pattern continued throughout elementary school. When we were 8, I won a state-level chess championship. I remember being so excited, thinking finally, I'd done something to make them proud. The competition was on a Saturday morning, and I begged them to come. They promised they would, but on the day of the ceremony, they didn't show up. Margie had a dance recital that afternoon, and they spent the morning helping her practice. I stood alone on stage holding my trophy, watching other kids celebrate with their families. Our neighbor had to pick me up because my parents were still at Margie's recital. By middle school, I'd learned to stop expecting them at my events. When I made it to the science fair finals in 7th grade, I didn't even tell them. My project on computer programming won first place, but I kept the certificate hidden in my desk drawer. The same week, Margie got a B+ on her math test, and our parents took the whole family out to celebrate. The only person who ever showed genuine interest in my achievements was my Uncle Jacob, my mom's younger brother. He was different from the rest of our family, more laid back, more understanding. He'd come to my chess tournaments and science fairs and listen when I talked about my interests in computers and technology. When I was 15, I wanted to join a programming boot camp that cost $500. I'd found it online and knew it could help me learn real coding skills. When I asked my parents, they immediately refused, saying they needed to save money for Margie's upcoming dance competition costume. I still remember my mom's words. "Your sister has real talent, honey. This computer thing is just a hobby." Uncle Jacob overheard this conversation and stepped in. He not only paid for the boot camp but also bought me my first proper laptop. That boot camp was where I learned Python and JavaScript skills, which eventually led to my current position as a senior developer at a tech company. Even after I started my career and began earning well, nothing changed with my parents at family gatherings. They'd introduce me as Margie's brother or our other child. When Margie got engaged last year to James, a wealthy businessman she met at a charity gala, my parents had an engagement party that cost more than my first car. They invited over 200 people and hired a live band. The same month, I was promoted to senior developer with a significant salary increase. When I told them at Sunday dinner, my mom just nodded and asked Margie about her wedding dress shopping. I learned to live with their behavior. I moved out at 18 for college, worked multiple jobs to pay my way through school, and built a life for myself. Uncle Jacob remained my biggest supporter, always checking in on me and offering advice when I needed it. He became more of a father figure to me than my actual dad. But everything changed 3 months ago. I woke up one morning with severe abdominal pain. By afternoon, I could barely stand. My colleague rushed me to the emergency room, where I was diagnosed with acute appendicitis. The doctors said I needed immediate surgery to prevent rupture. It was serious enough that they wanted to operate within the next few hours. The timing couldn't have been worse. It was the same day as Margie's master's degree convocation. She'd been working on her MBA part-time while planning her wedding. From my hospital bed, I called my parents, thinking, surely a medical emergency would be important enough for them to come. My dad answered on the third ring. I explained the situation, trying to stay calm despite the pain. There was a long pause before he responded. "We can't miss Margie's big day. Can't you wait until tomorrow for the surgery?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I explained again that the doctor said it was urgent, that my appendix could rupture if they waited. My dad's response. "Well, you've always been dramatic about everything. Margie only graduates once." In the background, I could hear my mom saying that they had already promised to livestream the ceremony for James's parents, who lived overseas. Lying there in the hospital bed, hooked up to IV fluids and fighting back tears, I called Uncle Jacob. He lived 2 hours away, but immediately said he was getting in his car. He made it to the hospital in record time, staying through my surgery and handling all the paperwork. When I woke up groggy from anesthesia, he was there, holding my hand and telling me everything would be okay. I spent a week in the hospital recovering. My parents didn't visit once. They sent a generic "get well soon" text 3 days after my surgery, followed by a message asking if I'd be well enough to help with Margie's wedding preparations the following month. Uncle Jacob stayed with me the entire time, working remotely from my hospital room and making sure I had everything I needed. After getting discharged, Uncle Jacob insisted I stay with him during my recovery instead of going back to my empty apartment. During those weeks at his house, my parents called exactly twice, both times to ask when I was coming to help with Margie's wedding preparations. On the second call, my mom said, "You can't let your silly appendix ruin your sister's special day." That was the moment I decided I was done with their support. I blocked my parents and Margie on everything and changed my number, email, and social media accounts. The only family member who had my contact information was Uncle Jacob. For the first time in my life, I felt peaceful. 2 months after my surgery, Uncle Jacob was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. It was aggressive, and he declined rapidly. He passed away just 6 weeks after his diagnosis. I was devastated. The one person who'd always been there for me, who'd shown me what parental love should look like, was gone. A week after his funeral, I learned that Uncle Jacob had left me a significant portion of his estate, his house, his savings, around $900,000, and his beloved classic car collection. He'd updated his will right after my surgery, leaving only small amounts to my parents and Margie. Now my parents are suddenly interested in having a relationship with me again. They've been trying to reach me through extended family members, claiming they have a right to Uncle Jacob's inheritance since he was their brother and brother-in-law. They're telling everyone I manipulated a dying man into changing his will. I'm trying to process everything while dealing with lawyers to protect my inheritance. The worst part is I know they don't want to reconnect with me. They just want Uncle Jacob's money. 28 years of favoritism and neglect made that clear. I'll post updates as things develop. But right now, I'm just trying to honor Uncle Jacob's memory while protecting myself from my family's greed. Update 1. Things have escalated dramatically since my last post. Yesterday morning, I was in the middle of a team meeting at work when my assistant messaged me that my parents and Margie were in the lobby demanding to see me. I excused myself from the meeting, thinking I could handle this quietly. I was wrong. The moment I stepped into the lobby, my mom started screaming about how I'd stolen their inheritance. My dad was waving some papers around, printouts of Uncle Jacob's will, while Margie stood there filming everything on her phone. They had completely lost it, shouting about how I'd manipulated Uncle Jacob and turned him against them. My mom was crying about how her brother had betrayed her by leaving everything to her ungrateful son. Security had to escort them out while they continued yelling about lawyers and family obligations. My coworkers tried to pretend they hadn't heard anything, but I could feel their stares all day. My boss called me into his office afterward to check if I was okay and assured me they'd be from the building. Later that day, I received a lengthy email from my mom that exposed their true colors. I was going to summarize it, but I think it's important to share exactly what she wrote. You've always been jealous of your sister. From the day you were born, you've tried to compete with her, but you could never match her natural talents. We gave you everything we could, but you chose to be difficult. You chose to pursue your computer hobby instead of real achievements like your sister. Uncle Jacob was my brother. His assets should rightfully come to me. You took advantage of his illness to turn him against us. You've always been manipulative. Remember how you used to cry when we couldn't come to your little chess games? A real man wouldn't cry over such things. Margie never gave us such trouble. We always knew Margie would be more worthy of our attention. She has grace, charm, and actual accomplishments. What do you have? A job playing with computers. You should understand your place in the family hierarchy and do the right thing by signing over Uncle Jacob's assets to us. The email went on, but you get the idea. The mask had finally dropped completely. What happened next revealed even more about their true nature. My Aunt Sarah, Dad's sister, reached out to me after hearing about the workplace incident. She'd been keeping quiet all these years out of family loyalty, but she couldn't stay silent anymore. Sarah told me about a confrontation that happened while I was in the hospital. Uncle Jacob had called my parents multiple times during my surgery, keeping them updated on my condition. When they still refused to come, he offered to pay for their flights. Their response? My mom said Margie needed them more because her whole future depends on making a good impression at this graduation. The argument got heated, and that's when my mom revealed something that made me physically sick. They had never wanted twins. They had only wanted a daughter. And when they found out they were having twins, they were disappointed. Sarah was there during this conversation and said Uncle Jacob went completely silent after hearing this. He left immediately and went straight to his lawyer's office. That's when he changed his will. Sarah also shared screenshots from our family WhatsApp group that showed my parents had been planning to contest the will even before Uncle Jacob passed away. They'd been discussing lawyers and strategies while he was still fighting cancer in the hospital. The screenshots showed Margie actively participating in these discussions, suggesting ways to prove I was mentally manipulating Uncle Jacob. But they didn't stop there. They've been spreading vicious lies throughout the extended family. According to my cousin Lisa, they're telling everyone that I do mere myself if Uncle Jacob didn't change his will. They've conveniently omitted how they abandoned me during my medical emergency or their decades of favoritism. I've hired Karen, a lawyer who specializes in estate litigation. She reviewed everything and assured me that Uncle Jacob's will is legally solid. He had it properly witnessed and even videotaped himself explaining his decisions. He specifically mentioned in the video that he was of sound mind and was not under any duress or manipulation. My parents don't have any legal ground to stand on. To protect myself, I've filed for a restraining order against my parents and Margie. I've also shared my mom's email with the extended family to counter their threat narrative. Several relatives have reached out to apologize for believing their lies, including my cousins who'd initially sided with my parents. The final revelation came from Uncle Jacob's lawyer. Yesterday, he called to let me know that Uncle Jacob had kept meticulous records of my parents' behavior over the years. He had a filing cabinet full of documentation, photos of them missing my events, financial records showing how they'd used my college fund to pay for Margie's wedding while I worked multiple jobs, emails where they dismissed my achievements, and even recordings of conversations where they'd openly favored Margie. The lawyer explained that Uncle Jacob had started keeping these records when I was still in high school, concerned about the emotions he was witnessing. He'd considered confronting them many times but worried it would make things worse for me while I was still dependent on them. Right now, I'm staying at Uncle Jacob's house, my house now, and trying to process everything. Each new revelation feels like another punch to the gut. But at least now I have concrete proof that I wasn't imagining things all these years. I'll update again when there are new developments. Update 2. The situation has taken several unexpected turns. My cousin Mike, who manages our extended family's Facebook group, reached out to me last week. He was disturbed by my parents' recent behavior and decided to share years of private group chats with me. What I found was worse than I imagined. The messages went back almost a decade. There were entire conversation threads between my parents and Margie about me, revealing how they'd systematically worked to exclude me from family life. They had a separate chat group called Family Planning, where they coordinated events specifically for times when they knew I'd be busy with work. Some of the messages were particularly cruel. When I got my first job as a junior developer, Margie wrote, "At least he'll be too busy coding to show up at family events. Won't have to pretend to care about his boring life anymore." My mom replied, "True, and we can focus on our career networking without him embarrassing us by talking about computers all the time." They'd actively sabotaged my relationships too. I found messages from 2 years ago when I was dating Sarah, a doctor I'd met at a tech conference. I'd planned to bring her to our annual family Christmas gathering. My parents and Margie discussed ways to make her uncomfortable, suggesting they should repeatedly bring up my failed relationships and make comments about how our family only respects traditional careers in business and law. Sarah broke up with me shortly after that Christmas party, saying my family made her feel unwelcome. Now I understand why. But the most shocking revelation came from messages exchanged during my appendicitis crisis. Margie had convinced our parents that I deliberately planned the surgery to overshadow her convocation. She wrote, "He's been complaining about stomach pain for weeks. He could have had the surgery any time, but he chose my special day. He's always been jealous of my achievements." The truth is, I had no symptoms until that morning when I collapsed at work. My medical records confirm it was an emergency admission. They had to rush me into surgery because my appendix was close to rupturing. My parents never even bothered to check with the hospital. They just believed Margie's lies. The family has fractured over all this. Uncle Rick, Dad's brother, and his wife have complete ties with my parents after reading the Facebook messages. Aunt Sarah has been rallying support for me among the extended family. But some relatives, like my grandmother, think I should give them part of the inheritance to keep the peace. She keeps saying, "Family is all we have in the end." My lawyer called yesterday with news about my parents' latest move. Their lawyer sent over a settlement offer that honestly made me laugh out loud. They want Uncle Jacob's house and half of his savings in exchange for dropping their claims about manipulation. Their justification was that since Uncle Jacob never married or had kids, his estate should naturally go to his sister, my mom, and her children equally. The offer came with a letter from my mom trying to emotionally manipulate me again. "Your uncle would have wanted us to remain a family. This fight is destroying his legacy of love and kindness. As your mother, I'm asking you to do the right thing." I rejected their offer immediately. My lawyer said it was a desperate move. They know they have no legal standing, so they're trying to appeal to my emotions. Uncle Jacob made his wishes clear, and I intend to honor them. What's interesting is how this whole situation has exposed who my parents are to everyone. My mom's best friend since college called me yesterday. She apologized for never speaking up about how they treated me and shared that she'd witnessed countless instances of their favoritism over the years. She's ended her friendship with my mom, saying she can't respect someone who would abandon their child during a medical emergency. Margie's been unusually quiet lately. According to my cousin Mike, she's worried about how this drama might affect her image. Some of her social media followers have started unfollowing her after hearing rumors about how she treated her twin brother. Her carefully crafted image as a successful businesswoman and family person is starting to. I've started therapy to deal with all this. My company has good insurance that covers it. My therapist pointed out that my parents' behavior shows a pattern of narcissistic, with Margie being the golden child and me the scapegoat. It's helping me understand that none of this was my fault. The court date for their challenge to Uncle Jacob's will is set for next week. My lawyer is confident, but I'm still anxious about facing them in court. I'll update again after the hearing. Update 3. This will be my final update on this situation. The past week has brought several unexpected developments that have effectively ended this family drama once and for all. The court date for my parents' challenge to Uncle Jacob's will was set for next Monday. I've been dreading it, knowing I'd have to face them in court. But last Friday, something unexpected happened. While Aunt Sarah was helping me organize Uncle Jacob's home office, we found a leather-bound journal hidden in his desk drawer. It turned out to be Uncle Jacob's diary, with entries spanning the last 5 years of his life. The final entries, written just days before his death, were particularly powerful. He documented everything: his observations, his concerns, and ultimately his reasons for his will. One entry from his last week stood out. "I've watched my nephew grow up under the shadow of constant emotional. When they abandoned him during his surgery, choosing a graduation ceremony over their son's life, I knew I had to act. My sister has forgotten what it means to be a parent. She and her husband have twisted Margie into a mirror image of their worst qualities. My classic cars, my home, my savings, they'll go to the one person who truly shared my passions and understood what family should mean. He helped me restore the Mustang last summer, not because he wanted anything from me, but because he genuinely enjoyed spending time with his old uncle. That's the kind of person who deserves this legacy." My lawyer sent copies of the relevant diary entries to my parents' legal team. Within hours, they withdrew their challenge to the will. Their lawyer contacted mine to say they would be dropping all claims to the estate. But here's where it gets interesting. Margie's fiancé, James, called me directly 2 days ago. He'd heard about the hospital incident from one of our cousins and wanted to know if it was true. I sent him the medical record showing it was an emergency admission and shared screenshots of Margie's messages claiming I'd planned it to ruin her convocation. Yesterday, James called off their engagement. Lying about someone's emergency surgery was a deal breaker for him. His exact words to Margie were, "If you can lie about your twin brother nearly dying just to maintain the spotlight, what else are you capable of?" He's from a family that values integrity in business and personal life, and Margie's behavior didn't align with those values. My parents are now blaming me for ruining Margie's life and future. Mom left a hysterical voicemail saying I destroyed her daughter's chance at happiness. Dad sent an email demanding I fix things with James's family. The irony of them caring more about Margie's broken engagement than they did about my burst appendix isn't lost on me. I've moved into Uncle Jacob's house permanently. His classic car collection is exactly where it belongs. I've already started working on restoring the 1965 Corvette we'd planned to fix up together. Every time I work on one of his cars, I feel like he's still here, teaching me about engines and life. Several family members have ties with my parents after seeing the diary entries. Even my grandmother, who initially wanted me to share the inheritance, called to apologize for not seeing the truth sooner. To those suggesting family counseling or reconciliation, I appreciate the advice, but some bridges shouldn't be rebuilt. My parents and Margie showed me who they are, not just during the inheritance drama, but throughout my entire life. Uncle Jacob taught me that family isn't just about Baldy, it's about who shows up when you need them most. I'm at peace with my decision to go completely no contact. I've changed my phone number again and moved all my social media to private. My lawyer is handling any necessary future communications with my parents. For the first time in my life, I don't feel the weight of trying to earn love from people who were never capable of giving it. Uncle Jacob left me more than just his material possessions. He left me the courage to stand up for myself and the wisdom to know when to walk away. I plan to honor that legacy by living life on my terms, surrounded by people who value me for who I am.